took a little bit to set up. We are ready to go. Last evening, when we ended the Finance Committee meeting, we had said it was in recess until this morning. Turns out that may have been the potential that in 2023, my understanding is the open meeting law changed and you can't recess from one to the other. So we have called this an emergency meeting. So last night's meeting is over. We're in today's meeting. This is an emergency meeting. The circumstances provide us is that we have a requirement to submit recommendations on a budget to town meeting. So under those circumstances, we posted as quickly as we could last night, an emergency posting for this morning, and that's why we are starting from that to continue our work towards the budget and recommendations for this evening. Just wanted to make that clear as to why we're starting. I'll call the meeting to order at 8:10 a.m. Roll call attendance, please.
Carol Bazika is here.
Dan Graham here.
Mary Jean Churchville here. Carol Hofstas here.
John Hayes here. With that, that's our 5 members. We have a quorum. We are ready to continue. This meeting is being recorded by TCAM for playback on Channel 9, as well as posting to the town's YouTube channel. Do we have anybody else recording the meeting? Yeah, thanks. None being heard. No one else is recording this meeting. Okay, so on the work session piece, we have continue with the omnibus Finance Committee version as we were working it yesterday. So let me follow up. And my understanding, I need to go get a new or an updated copy.
Helpful to have me read the numbers that I've been trying to keep up with you all saying, in the work, so you can go through your spreadsheet. Because I know you guys are trying really hard, and
right, yeah,
you have your spreadsheet that you're working off of and taking numbers. So we make sure all on this one page. So this, the last one I have is my account. So the one I sent to you is what I was trying to write down from all of your information from
yesterday. Yeah.
So your committee wouldn't do that.
Right.
So you have to send it to us.
Okay.
We'll put it out.
I will do both.
So then, yeah. I think I can. Can you use the big screen?
We were trying, but it's we can't see how to get the connection to it because I'm
gonna go get my computer. I can see it on there.
okay. Okay. So it has been sent. That down so that we can see it. Does it help if I blow it up a little bit? Or in the room? Okay, so this is the latest from this morning. Um,
I don't know if that's easier for you to look,
on the,
as I was just trying to
On this-
type in what you all were saying.
no.
You'll be able to table.
Hmm.
This is the one we had last night, Don.
Yeah, and it may not have some of the changes that we were discussing yesterday. If we hadn't voted on them, we had, taken a look because I look at the police line, and it's still saying the 53,785 from Article 3 in the special town meeting.
Can we go up to
so-
that?
Well,
Is that the highest one?
no. What we were discussing yesterday in the session was there was a change in the select board budget that was there was 100,000 moved from ARPA funds into the general budget to support some labor lines. And if we use that same information in our budget, that allows us to look at the two lines that had significant cuts in them. The line for the police vehicle and
So that is the highest.
well, that's the highest number from those the combining of those answers. But I guess what's the question on the highest number? The police lease budget line is 102,000. And initially it was cut back, and then we were looking for the additional $53,785. And if we take that from town hall, we're putting off repairs on town hall.
We're doing what?
If we were to take the 53,785 from the special town meeting Article 3, we would be putting off repairs to town hall. So there's a trade-off if we did that. Yesterday, once we had seen that there was $100,000, we said we could restore this without and leave Article 3 as it is, going to town hall repairs as voted by the capital planning committee.
You know the
So-
exact number for the town hall repairs? Because remember,
Well, so that was the invoice, right?
that was the invoice of
Well,
68,900. 68,900.
problem was, where's the money coming from?
The remainder, right.
Or do they take some of the, whatever the estimate is, they could always take
take some of the
that,
items off.
some items off from the estimate. And,
Oh, and adjust the invoice.
and then just, they could do that.
Right, Yeah.
So,
yes. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think I,
Where there's so many imbalances,
Mm-hmm.
would it be advisable to do what they can in May and June on the painting? With that, funding in their line items now.
Right, yeah, so get started on it, use some of the money. That was a conversation. If they wanted to put the whole thing off, another conversation was to use the municipal relief transfer and move the money from the maintenance accounts into the line with the 53,000 to come up with the full amount. So yeah, we need to speak with Rob and see what the plans are for whether it's being attacked for the whole list that was in the quote
Rob's away.
right now. Yeah. So it's kind of like we are.
So what do we do about it? When do we?
We can ask.
Out?
Hmm.
I just wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's kind of like we'll get you connected, Jerry. Do you see?
I'm not going
No, it's kind of like on your list of networks. You see the 2.5, 2.4 gig.
what?
G.
Yeah. Okay, it's lowercase c.
No, it's kind of like you can take the.
You have it?
Okay. Sorry, we're gonna take
Uh-huh.
1 minute to get.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
See where those are capital projects we come from.
Yes, those were other previous capital funds that they were being drawn from.
And cruisers are typically capital.
Typical, the cruises are typically capital. They're approved, but they have been funded out of the general fund for the past few years.
Cruisers typically. Not so much. maybe
Right,
here with
well, they-
contracts here has.
Right.
So then does it make more sense to keep capital during capital and general operating with facilities and maintenance? It seems that quote is facilities and maintenance related. More than capital. I mean, it's one area or the other.
Right,
but
is,
It's a question for the chair.
mhm.
What's your thoughts on it?
They're both capital. When you start getting over the 10,000, they're both capital. It's kind of like, and we didn't have money in the capital stabilization to fund it, and that's why they started looking at old articles to bring back additional money into a single account to fund the maintenance on town hall or Memorial Hall, if you will. That I see is we've been, I believe, putting it off. I know, and it's come to a point where it's really critical that we start doing those repairs to keep them updated before windows start falling out and things. The glazing is falling
Yeah,
out
so
of
the
the windows.
windows,
So you
I
kind
see as an
of
emergency piece, the painting, not so much. Thoughts,
That's-
right, is looking forward to planning purposes.
mhm.
I mean, there is the grant that comes out every year that has to have a secured funding source. So now paying from free cash, years like that was wanting to happen, but that would have to be encumbered at a fall town meeting.
Right.
Which is hard because it's not certified yet, so it would have to be all set up, ready to
Right.
go for spring town meeting and time for that into a grant. There's one thought. On the other hand, you know, if memory serves me correctly, when town hall was restored before, there was a lot of municipal services, you know, community members donating services, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And there was some fundraising going on there. Just to see, you know, doesn't have to be a definitive answer, but
Yeah,
there's a thought there that can help extend resources that are here. Also converting town hall, but the windows definitely seem like an emergency.
right. Okay, sorry, it's kind of, do we want to address this, what we have in front of us is the summary from the omnibus budget. Do we want to, is it the omnibus budget or just take these lines and put them into the recap sheet and see?
Are you talking about the budget by department?
Yeah, it's either the budget by department, but the recap sheet takes it and summarizes it to see that we can balance the budget. So this,
You don't have the numbers on this. I have it, this.
We've got another debate.
Which one
no,
is that?
this sheet is the budget summary by department.
FY 26 budget by department.
No, this is from the one just sent out.
Yeah.
Budget summary by department is the last tab. So there's 4 tabs at the bottom.
No.
So the file, yeah, the file name has today's date, 5 a.m.
Oh.
on the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's why we have to start dating and timing them.
But what are we gonna tell the people tonight? How many times can we go over this? What are we gonna tell the?
Right. Well,
We're not gonna go over this to the people, are we? Or are we?
In some form, we have to do it, whether it's by grouping, by department, or line by line, depending on how it's going to go at town meeting tonight.
Like the one on top of the yellow highlight, like FinCom all budget by section, general government, FinCom 1,000,000, 686, select board 604. Which one, are they gonna want to know what the, what that represents? Because there's a difference of X in each box.
Right.
Sometimes we're higher and sometimes the select board is.
Right.
But the scary thing is at the bottom, it says total of hours 27,728, and the selectman's blank. I mean,
The selectman says 27,591.
no.
No, it's just got the hashtag. It's like the select board.
Oh, if it's hashtag, the column needs to be wider. Fill it in.
Oh. Okay.
The friend of the week that was out, did you in?
Yeah.
Obviously, I've sat meetings, like seeing, I would, if I was walking those off the street, I would not go. You have the phones on, right?
You not what?
It's too general, not
It's too
detailed,
general.
not detailed enough, but that's right.
What we're talking about? Jerry, there's there's two columns. One, over here, one is the.
No,
thing-
she can't get,
you
can't get connected to this.
Oh, you can't get,
No. There, you know.
Oh,
Okay, do we want to take just a couple minutes and maybe take a look at it?
Can we copy it?
I mean, Jones, you know.
Yeah. That's-
It's already come up twice.
Maybe it's not what,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, wait.
No. Oh,
Can't do that one.
maybe.
Probably gonna be that, you know.
Okay, we're connected now.
We're in.
Yeah, we'll give her a minute to. Oh, So that's. Okay, so with it, the general sections need to be there. It that's how it's going to be introduced as far as general government's a certain number of dollars.
Will be general government, FinCom, select board, public safety,
Right.
FinCom,
So-
okay, all the way down the
so-
line, to the bottom line.
Yeah, so over on the left-hand side is the breakdown. When we say general government,
Yep.
the
You see,
in the departments on the left-hand side columns,
So the selectmen's budget is 212,171. We cut them 8,000. Leaving them with 203. So that's
That
line
was-
item, we don't want to do line item.
well, that was a recommendation at the department that we need to go back and see if they can achieve that.
Oh,
The departments, we went through and highlighted some lines. We thought the amount we were looking for Board of Selectmen.
So those department head cuts have to be verified by the department.
By the
heads?
department heads, yeah.
between now and 7 o'clock tonight?
If we're proposing it, yeah, it's either yes, because the department heads haven't had the
How do we
chance.
achieve that? What do we-
Well, that's the piece, but it's kind of, so then when we would get to the individual lines that we thought was the potential for the cut, we're just saying that's the amount for
Well,
these are
Yeah.
the actual cuts by the department head, these are cuts that we propose.
but isn't that the same as what the select board does, or the select board confirm that the department they don't have it?
Yes, they,
Okay,
yeah.
so we have to send this to department heads like right now. Because they're gonna be in at
Right.
9 o'clock, 8:30.
they will be.
And we have to have them, please look at
Yeah.
this, as soon as you prioritize this and respond back to us, otherwise we can't present the budget, is that what you're saying?
If we would be, if we don't do that, we would be presenting an unverified budget to them.
Okay,
So
we do it
it
right
kinda-
now?
we can, but, I'm gonna speak to the police line. I did look a little further into the police budget. The selectmen worked with the police chief and removed some additional funds from other lines in their budget. So we need to take into account, again, we started talking about a combined use the work that the Board of Selectmen have done and see if we can add to it and continue not working towards not cutting the employees. The police department budget was cut on some additional lines. So if we go back to those individual lines, we can see that this number from 46,250 would be reduced again. So it's not,
I thought the chief saw that yesterday and he was okay with it. I thought when he met us last night, yesterday afternoon, he was okay, he said he could work with it. Did I not
He-
know that?
no, you did hear them, but he had already made concessions on some lines, salary lines and an expense line with the Board of Selectmen. So if we integrate that into ours, this number changes.
Can I ask? How do we know that, or how do we, that everything that we're doing is here? All the other things aren't, questions, which are talking in here, and you said it.
Mhm.
But right now, I feel like you and the public are flying blind what the selectmen decided with department head or otherwise. And then if you're putting forward a budget, you have to defend it, you'll sign what you think.
I think you're right, Jim. I think you're right. I mean, if you don't, how do we even know what the changes were? We don't. So
Well, we
if we were privy to what they were changing, that'd be one thing, and we could collaborate and work together.
It-
That's not the case.
but it is in the files that were provided. We started to look at it yesterday and we identified the lines that had the ARPA money in. We saw the cemetery and parks that had money in there. Continuing to look at it, there are additional lines that were cut in the select board budget that were not specific to individuals. They were specific to a line so that they are in the select board budget as already projected at that value. It's not the other lines where they combined totals and said, this is the total. Let me see if I can,
So you're saying that we have to take our budget and take the selectmen's budget and substitute our numbers with the selectmen numbers?
on a few lines, yes. That's my recommendation.
Okay, what lines are?
Okay, yep.
It's really too complicated.
It-
And we can't come to the end of this, and we should just say we're not ready. We're just not ready.
That's something I considered this morning while I was
It's a
doing,
little bit pressured here because
we,
we don't have all day to do this in terms of our
right,
lives.
right.
And we're not getting anywhere, so
No,
we
so
need more time.
we do. It's very late that,
It's in the 11th hour production that we've asked
Yeah.
not to have.
Right.
And we're getting it, and I think we should just make the recommendation that the the budget not be addressed tonight, do a date certain, and reconvene when we've had time, and the public have time to look at it.
I mean, I think, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
speaking from one community member, it's not a surprise that I would be on the floor not supporting this budget
Mhm.
in the manner that.
Right.
I think that very- about budgets that not that say it's X person from this department,
Mhm.
newspaper articles all over. In many years. They will not tell me not to do that, understood, and love to be able to defend the ends for a budget that can pass and be workable.
Right.
But if there's gonna be line items that are not known, I think that's gonna be really hard.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I think what you guys have done, I've been able to follow up until probably the last few minutes of where you might be going with your budget.
Yep.
That it seems very logical, from what I've heard from you all, that when Nelson sent it out, you didn't get any pushback. So if there's pushback somewhere that you've gotten, would say it now so that
Right.
people can
Yeah.
know and understand, but it would seem that.
Yeah. No, they-
Something that
Right.
has been done out in the open, seems defensible. You haven't had, to the best of my knowledge, about any meeting, any department head calling you upset, you can't do this. It's been out.
No, they haven't. We did send it out as preliminary. It was sent to the department heads and there seemed to be good reaction to it, but we haven't gone back to them and asked specifically to
Wasn't that what Nelson did? He took it and sent it out to everybody and said, there's drastic cuts, please respond, and people didn't. In the negative.
they haven't they did not in the negative, but we haven't gone back to the department heads with the numbers that were presented here. Can you cut this from the budget? So we haven't really had enough time.
That's not what Nelson said.
Maybe about these numbers, these updated numbers from what he sent.
The what I'm showing is the select board budget, and I'm highlighting the police lines that had changed. So when we look at the parts of the budget that we weren't comfortable with, where salaries were listed and then replaced with a single line. This you can see on the police budget that they've cut 32,000 from there. This is not included in our numbers because we haven't transferred these over from the most recent select board budget into ours. Once we started working on a budget, there was a certain point in time where the budgets diverged, and we're trying to bring them back in together and present a unified front. If we put these in, this 32,000 in with our recommended 40,000 of cuts for the police, that number is 8,000 now. It's not 40,000. So there's been that divergence that we need to integrate back into
So
our
you're telling us that
recommendation.
we have to now take the selectmen's budget and
It-
collaborate with the, and they just gave this to us on Friday?
They-
You know what, Dawn, really, I mean,
They did, and
excuse me, Veronica,
it said,
we got it on Friday.
Maybe from Dawn. Dawn got it.
it may have been Thursday. It's kind of like it pick dates.
So,
It was dated April 30th. If I've probably added it, by Thursday and sent it out. So it's only been 5 days.
just so I
Calendar
can follow,
days.
because
Yep.
as.
Yep.
So what you're saying is smaller departments like cemetery, Roger graciously was going into his reserve, which he doesn't necessarily
Correct.
to bring funding forward.
Yeah.
Very tightly budgeted, doesn't give a lot of give back.
Right.
The budget that you proposed had a $46,000 reduction Chief Sartell sat in front of you last night and said you could live with that. But you want to go back and change that number so it's less, but still take from the smaller department.
No, this was a change that was a result of the override failing, and they worked on the budget, so it's kind of like it is, and that's where the divergence came in. We had a budget before, select board worked on a budget for after the cuts to try to come with a balanced budget with no override. With that, they worked with the department heads and came up with these cuts. We did not put these cuts in there, so the cuts we're recommending weren't on these lines. And so that's what I'm saying is if they've already volunteered to cut and adjusted their budget lines, we should be working with that information, integrating it into our budget and saying this is the remainder to be looked at. So it's not that they didn't look at the total amount that we said. They've already looked at it and adjusted some. The department heads. In this case, we'll stay with Chief Sartell. If our number was 40,000 to be cut, we were all in the expenses. He's come in and said 22,000. It's a total of 27,000 can be cut from labor lines. And so it's not cutting a position. It's probably adjusting hours and reducing hitting that salary reduction on that line.
When he understood, as far as I thought,
You can cut it wherever you
you can do whatever you want with it. What?
Right, and what I'm saying is our budget didn't include these cuts that he had made. So if we integrate them in, we're not talking as large a number for him to cut. So if he's going to say, well, that I'm not saying go to another department. I'm saying this is the cuts. See if the chief can take a look at the other lines. We had cut everything from expenses. We cut the remainder was 40,000 from expenses. He's taken that 40,000 and applied 37,000 or 32,000. Here across is one line that's expenses. But if he's already taken the amount that we said, 40,000, we haven't applied these cuts in there. This would be part of his cuts that he would come back and recommend to us as part of the 40,000 is what I'm saying. He's already done that, so why not include that and say it's only 8,000 that we're looking for? Additional.
For 46, you would get the,
Okay.
from wherever Chief Sartell chose to take it.
Right.
It doesn't matter if he takes it from equipment or fuel or.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is he's already come through, looked at his budget and adjusted it by 32,000, which is not reflected in the budget we had because we started that budget before we had the selectmen budget from 4:30.
I don't know how we're gonna be able
I
to,
don't
but
know.
it,
But you were
one
Which-
evening, I just don't know how we can do it.
So this would be my suggestion at this point. That I would be putting on Facebook, nobody come, don't have a quorum, or when there's a quorum there, I vote to close the meeting. I table these budgets definitely. You guys know that I'll make the moves because Don, you were tracking fine and knew everything that you were doing until this moment. Then what you had was the original budget.
Yeah.
And then you were cutting it down based on a no override, which I could follow perfectly.
Yeah.
But now you're going back to say a budget was different. So in column C, that we've been tracking off
Yeah.
of everything you've done, column C.
Yeah.
To get to column F, what your cuts would be in any of the offsets to get to your budget number. And any of those cuts, from what I understood from you last week, would be whatever they chose to cut from.
Correct.
And so you are saying there wasn't, the chief from your budget was being told where to cut from, but he wasn't because you lump summed it together.
Right. And if we take that and apply it to the budget that was prepared by the select board, town administrator, and the department heads, he's already cut 32,000 from that, so that's not applied in ours. So that's going to be his starting point to cut in towards our budget anyway. That's what I'm saying, is
So which select board budget?
the April 30th budget that was presented after the override failed. So
The one that is posted online at the bottom right now?
I would say that's the one, yeah. That's this one. I put a date on it when I was working on it, which was yesterday, to identify the lines that were different. So it's the Omnibus FY26 override doesn't pass, version 4 or V4, no highlights. And then the rest of the line here is my identification so that I can see what I modified and keep it away from the original. So I'm not modifying the original. These were just, for me, identifying marks of what was different between what we had and
So.
in the finance committee
So if I were
budget.
giving unsolicited advice,
I-
Mr. Chairman, would say, you do your FinCom budget, because I think everybody at your table understood what you were doing. You just profile, and I'm pretty good with Excel math and tracking this. And you just lost me. And the select board is meeting at 2:00, but then we just modified the budget. Because it was clear to me that the select board wasn't coming to you and what you would do with that. People, I believe, have good faith in the FinCom, and I've seen you working diligently, and you just like somewhere let a curveball come to you in the 11th hour. You had good numbers, you seemed solid, no one seemed to be going
And
off the rails about them.
right, and
If you
again,
cut into cemetery reserves, you were doing good, and now.
Yeah, what happened?
well, like I said, there was work done between the time the override didn't pass and the presentation of
But it's,
the budget with no override.
if I'm to throw a thought out there,
Mhm.
seems like something changed from last night when you all recessed
It-
to now.
Okay, sorry.
And so it seems like a wholesale change that is going to be really hard to figure out. And so I think if you're trying to have this, and I know Nelson mentioned this, Friday, like a compromise budget.
Mhm.
I said, yeah, it'd be great to put a town meeting with a pretty bow and a budget, but that would have meant people sharing with you earlier than
Right.
might have and I don't want to assume that might have
Mhm.
transpired because there's new information from last night,
Right.
John, quite honestly. When I worked together before on other committees,
Mhm.
you're pretty
Yep.
straight shooter, but it seems like all of a sudden you're putting with new information wasn't available
We
yesterday.
we hadn't got there. This was available yesterday afternoon. Its meeting time came to an end. We hadn't hit it. We had started on pieces of it. This was just additional lines that we hadn't looked at yet. What we looked at yesterday was the lines that popped out, the highway department salaries that were dropping, the two cemetery lines, and then we used that money, adjusted the veterans benefit line to bring that back into the budget. And so, yes, it was working on a compromised budget, and that's what we seem to be working with now. And
I didn't know we were
It's-
working on a compromised budget. because
Well,
we didn't
we-
have, we didn't have.
we were integrating in the work that select board and town administrator and departments.
On the screen, we watched it, we were told we weren't gonna be, they weren't gonna share information. We said it like 4 times.
Right,
So now all of a
certain
sudden we're
information.
working with them? I don't, right, I don't know
We're-
what's going on.
We're working with the information provided that was not missing. this is fairly straightforward. A line has been decreased and it's
Okay,
in
so,
front of us.
well, let's cut to the chase. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
I don't know how
Right.
we're gonna. I
Right.
really don't.
Right, we,
Well, like the curveball, what's gonna happen like tonight when we get to the
mhm,
Memorial
Right.
Hall? I mean, wow, the trust level is like. Something else come up, they're meeting at 2 o'clock, they could change it, and then what are we gonna do? It's 6:45,
Right.
meet and try
it's
to.
gonna-
just
Well,
do
they-
the
I would-
figures?
I would hope not, but it's kind of like this is the budget that was posted online, and that's what we had. So,
We can't send this to the department heads right now at 5 of 9, they're not in
Yep.
yet, and say, could you please let us know?
if you
No,
can,
we can't do that.
I don't think it's fair to them. They don't get enough time.
hmm,
Well, then I guess what we're hearing now is that the only budget that will be presented is the selectmen with no information. And they'll have to just deal with the people. There's no mitigating, it's all just. And let the people decide, I guess. And they'll do their, sales pitch, and everybody will get confused and they'll vote for it, that'll be that. I'm sure they have Irene there again, that will divert the meeting for a minute, and I know Carl is gonna do a presentation, because she told.
Yeah.
So they'll be confusing,
But even,
town will be confused and they'll vote for it.
so if you send it to the department heads now, just for them to look at, if they've been working their budgets for weeks
Mhm.
like we have, they probably have some idea that lets you know whether it's
Mhm.
workable or not workable.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're gonna stay here and not close the meeting and keep a quorum until they all get back to you?
I have to go to work, and you have to go to the doctor.
yeah, we're not gonna have a forum to keep it, so we're gonna, we need to make our decision.
I think we need another week just to try to integrate it. I mean, I know there was no integration to begin with,
Mhm.
but,
It's not a problem, Jim. The bottom line issue is the selectmen have put the town in a situation against the staff. Last year it was the school and trash, now this year it's the staff.
Right.
I for one am absolutely against, and I will say this all night long 100 times, I'm against cutting any salaries across the board. You cannot pick and choose who you want to penalize and who you want to punish. It's not right.
No,
Every one of those people give their 100%. And if the
And-
budget is gonna be a secret budget based on collaboration with unions, it shouldn't happen, it's wrong.
I agree with you. It's the, they
and
have to
then
be.
that's what we might have to say.
Well, I think we should come right out and say that,
Yes.
that's what we're,
Yes.
especially going around here. It's,
Any salary cuts have to be across the board and they have to be.
exactly, they have 100, and department heads have told the TA that if you're gonna do across the board, I will work with you. If you're gonna pick and choose, I'm gonna defend my people, and I back her 1000%.
I'm only one person. But I was prepared to support your FinCom budget,
We were prepared.
but,
Mm,
but I'm
right.
not sure.
It's-
Because other than a few things last night that I thought you guys just had to wrap up a little bit. It seems pretty clear. There was a few questions. And again, trying to take this for as accurate as I
Yeah.
could. And listening to you all. But it looks like the select board budget is 1,988,000. All right, and your budget for police is 1,920. But of that, you're replacing 53,000 of it. So that brings you close, and then you've got the reduction of the 46, right? So what is it
Right.
that you would do with that bottom line number for the 1920045 that you had been proposing for the
Mhm.
police budget? What would you
Yep.
propose right now, Elizabeth?
You know, I would take the additional cuts that the chief put in and went, see, we weren't going to, well, kind of, there's,
So did the confusion come when we had gone through the police thing and in particular, certain cuts.
right,
But when he said that he was willing to live with that number, but
He did say,
he did
Right.
say that, and
Right.
why we,
and,
he said, well, if you live with that number, either do I have to live with your numbers? So I think he meant that he could, we had 5,000 there, maybe he's gonna put 3 and 2 something.
that's right, he said, these are my marching orders.
Right,
Right.
And can we said no.
but that's when I got, yeah.
Right,
no,
okay,
He said he
okay.
could use that money wherever.
Where we want it.
Right.
cut wherever
Okay,
he
so,
wants.
so take that statement,
Okay.
we said cut 46,250. He's already worked on the select board side and cut 32,000 from there. So our bottom line would be, if we integrate the cuts he's already suggested to select board, again, he may cut those lines a little more,
So,
but he went in already, worked it. So this number would be 32,000 higher. So it would be $1,952,045. That's what it would look like on our budget.
So but what it looks like is you replace the cruiser line.
So
Right, yeah, it's kind of like looking at it that way, but that was taken from the ARPA money that was put to highways and street. We sort of had $100,000 of ARPA money that funded labor lines in the highway department, which from our budget, we reduced the 61,000 and the 61.5 and 38.5. We reduced that 100,000 from our ask on the total budget for that, which gave us the $100,000 to come in and apply back to. And again, we talked about 2 lines. We talked about putting money back in the veterans benefits line and the cruiser line.
may I ask?
Sure, he may. Is-
Chair to the chair.
Yeah.
So to be clear, I'm trying to go to the meeting tonight and support a budget, somebody's budget. It seemed like last night when you were with FinCom that you said as long as you had full jurisdiction over the cuts and it was in the line item cut, that you were okay with the number.
Well, I didn't really tally the number to be clear, so I don't know what that total number would be. I can say with cuts of that magnitude, it would be personnel because there's no room in my expenses. So if the question is, could I make cuts work? I mean, I have to make, it would be desirable. So I don't know when you say okay with it, I'm not really sure.
I mean,
How to
none of us
answer
are totally okay with all of it, right?
Right.
But livable.
I want to say the back half of one officer for that remaining year, I can't remember how it would work. I think it would be 7 months of salary, and that would be like 40 or 50 grand or something in line with that. Is where I would go for that.
Barring any other
I'm not
putting
saying
in
that.
to you for expenses or such.
Right. I mean, I have a cheat sheet upstairs where I kind of catalog what the expenses line what that would have done to the expenses line, which was catastrophic. It was not doable.
Mhm.
We would not be able to run our body cameras, or I mean, there were some significant issues with those cuts. But the cuts, the level that we're talking, I would just have to go to personnel. I would look at the back half of an employee.
Right. Now, wait, the finance committee, when we started with the budget from earlier in April. Since the override failed, you have worked, it looks like, with town administrator to cut a salary line.
Sure.
Yeah. And then you cut 2 other lines. One was the certification line and the other was a maintenance line. by 5,000. I don't see those cuts in the budget we had been working with. When we gave the 46,000 numbers as what was going to be cut, it sounds like you would just apply those and continue with the difference in the dollars.
Right, I mean, I think what I would do is it's similar to several of the lines that I have, for instance, my training line. My
Mhm.
training line is significantly underfunded and has been for decades. So whereas I put together a line and I have, I have plans for that money, sometimes I know I'll use 100% of it in it.
Mhm.
So it's like one of those things, I'll do with it what I can. So if there was $50,000 in cuts, I would have to judiciously apply those where I could. I don't know what the final numbers are, Dawn, relative to what was done at the town level, the budget I submitted and then what was cut, since we've had a series of meetings and a number of discussions, so I'm not sure
Right.
exactly how that
Right,
works. I have to
and-
wait for the dust to settle to see what that looks
Right, and that's, yeah.
Here, I'm just trying to track all of this. From the budget that you saw, it seems like we're being told you cut 32,000. And this budget proposed a cut of 46,000. The cruisers, yes, cut, but being funded from a different fund, not cut out of the budget, just not out of the budget. So 53 of cruisers, not the responsibility of PD. So if I'm trying to track this, you had cut 32. FinCom's proposing a cut of 46, not 46 in addition to 32, but 46 total. So the delta from the 32 to the 46.
Okay, right. For purposes of full disclosure, it'd be a conversation better had with the TA to the exact number for sure of what was cut downstream from my submitted budget.
Mhm.
But that sounds about right as far as what the line Mr. Hayes had discussed. So yeah, again, I'll do whatever I can, and I appreciate the opportunity to cut in areas I think will have the least impact on the department and on the community. So, I'll do what I can as far as that goes.
Right, because
Mhm.
FinCom has been clear that they will not tell the department where.
Understood.
Okay, so that's resolved. What's the next one?
Sorry, back to,
If you know you have a full commitment, help them find grants.
Roger, I appreciate that.
Yeah. We'll get right now.
That's what that's what the issue is, and the chief has just said he will work with the commissioners. But I guess talking to the department heads is important because now we know at least 4 department heads that are okay with it. Not
I think that's correct. Yep. We,
so who are the remaining department heads that haven't had the information presented to them? But they all did.
they had it all, but I don't know that they understood it. So we need to, right, so we need to go back to the rest of the department heads, see if they understand it and can make recommendations for making those
Okay,
cuts.
so if we send them an email and CC everybody, does that create an open meeting law violation? They get back to us later?
It-
And unless you guys stay in a forum all day, there's nothing you can do
Right,
about
this,
it.
right, we are,
I didn't have this one for sure, and I can.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
4. We need 4 because, we are a committee of 6. 3 is,
Recess?
no,
We're in a recess.
no.
No, we're
it's
not,
gonna-
we're not in recess.
We're not in recess. We opened the emergency to continue because we know we needed to.
If there's anybody on high job,
Sure, you don't.
Yeah, no, we can't, right,
So, well, we don't really, we're not gonna deal with, we're the finance committee, so we have to get something in writing from accounting.
Yeah.
Is that, you want it in writing? Is that what we want? Yeah. Assessor, treasurer, who's legal?
that comes through Board of Selectmen. We,
Oh, okay.
legal, because it's contract with, town council.
And what's the management information?
Management information,
That-
I didn't look, what did we have for recommended cuts on MIS.
Department.
Are you at the line, Mr. Chairman, where the Guardian contract is?
I
At 9.
can be quickly. Kind of,
So
What number are you looking
I don't understand. Look
we
at
just
number 9.
understand that contract a little bit.
Yeah.
Am I understanding correctly, that the Guardian contract was signed? One, that it's a rollover contract, with a 90-day out instead of, well, all the policies have been taken down, but the policy that had read, you can't have a rollover contract, unless it has an at-will termination and not in 90 days. But how is it that something was encumbered, for the next fiscal year without a budget approval? Can you explain that to me?
Would that be a question for the board of selectmen?
it may be, it's kind of like that's outside, I think it's
It's a great
outside the,
question,
right,
but I
but
don't know.
it's out, I think outside finance committee. I mean, we're looking at a budget, and they signed a contract, renegotiated a contract and signed it
But
again.
are they renegotiating, or is it kind of a role where if we haven't notified them before the 90 days is up, it automatically becomes? Is that how that works?
Right, it was brought up at a select board meeting within the 90 days.
Mhm.
Not the exact words, but paraphrasing. Nelson was go ahead and sign it. It seems like the numbers haven't changed much, but if there's a policy that says we are not supposed to have contracts that have rolling
Mhm.
clauses, unless that will, and that one has 90 days. That seems to be a policy. But moreover, it's someone's approving something that hasn't been approved in the budget.
FinCom wasn't even
Right.
privy to this. That's a very good question to ask legal. Yeah. I
Right,
would
yeah,
really
I mean-
like to know what's going on with the Guardian contract.
Because it's locked you now into a budget year for something
Yeah,
that has taken away the vote of town meeting. For a preference of saying that should go to, a lower budget number, that should be renegotiated if someone signed a contract before a budget was even approved.
Right, and again, if the contract is signed, the town meeting and the vote on the budget line at that point is the approval for funding of that contract. If we don't fund the contract and pass that line at that dollar value at town meeting, the contract isn't funded fully.
but if it's
But-
signed,
but if
aren't we
it's a signed
obligated to it?
Yeah, you have to, if it's a signed contract between two parties, you're obligated to pay that or else you're in default of a contract.
That's 101.
And I don't think municipal contracting is any different than federal
I'm sure it
contracting
isn't. Or any contract.
or any contract. So if you signed a contract and there's no money there, you're gonna have to find the money from somewhere because you're obligated to pay it.
So I question
Well-
that because that's an
Yep.
area that I believe people would look at to want to cut. But if it's a contract that's already been signed, the town meeting is the one that actually
Mhm.
decides the budget. It seems like something happens perhaps out of sequence.
I'd have to look at the termination dates on the contract. It's kind of like you can't have a lapse in a contract. I don't know that all our contracts
Well, it lapses
run
June,
on the,
it lapses June
in June
30th.
30th.
And
Okay,
it says right here, unless either party notifies the other in writing of its desire not to renew at least 90 days prior to the expiration of the then current term, it will renew automatically for 1 year.
At least 90 days.
So 90 days is June, May, April.
April 1st.
And the date
So-
of that meeting was within the 90 days.
Mhm.
So someone was looking at the 90 days. So it had already gone into its automatic renewal. And there was an instruction to sign that contract without a budget approved from town meeting.
Oh.
So my question is, how do you rectify that? Because if we are cutting
for our own town employees,
Mhm.
I'd rather give money to Chief Sartell than to Guardian,
Yep.
and look for other vendors that are looking for work. Put it back out to bid, drive the cost down.
Did you sign it?
I don't know.
Well, there was an instruction to
Mhm. Right.
sign it. I don't know whether Nelson did or
Right.
didn't sign it.
Right.
I know some of the other contracts that you were told, and this is what brought my attention to it, is you were told in another meeting, so I'm
Yeah.
that it's under contract, and it means that you can't be under contract
Mhm.
because you don't have an approved budget. If you don't have an approved budget,
Mhm.
they're saying
Yeah, why
you
is it- yeah.
can go year to
Right.
year with the FBI. It's one
Yeah.
that the chief could encumber
Mhm.
from one year to another. There's some very, very specific things that can be encumbered and paid for.
Right.
In other budget years. But contract that rolls over, really not acceptable. It's never been explained to me. And that is a pretty hefty sum of money that could be thrown into other spots. And what I hear when I was talking was, and I haven't obviously done a statistical survey, but people aren't necessarily really happy with that service, or maybe the things that are tweaked.
Right.
People could have different opinions, but if that's an area that a contract was signed that isn't valid for multiple reasons, perhaps that's something.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a way to get on the phone now. So,
That's a very good point. And I want to go back to the point where you said that within 90 days, it has to be identified if we're going to move or not. Who are we watching that? And how did that happen? Because I think I'm hearing that no one responded and it automatically renewed, and then there was a directive to sign it because it had already happened.
I don't know that particular, I just know that it was within the 90 days and there was told.
Yeah.
If you would please help us then, if it's misinformation, because no information doesn't help us. So if you can
I'm
help
going
us-
to defer here because I think that you guys just want to talk amongst yourselves, so I will be quiet.
After you say that there's a lot of
There
misinformation,
is a
now
lot
you're
of
gonna defer and not help us. Okay, please note that.
Yeah. So, but sorry, Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah.
thought I had a valid question
Yeah.
because in watching hours and hours of tapes and trying to figure out what is going on,
Mm.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Chair, I will comment that in that meeting that Tim is referring to, Nelson stated that he had been working with Guardian, that they were not using all the hours that were within the Guardian in the contract, and they
Mhm.
kept it at the same value. The contract was changed to X number of hours, less per
Yes.
month, because as a town, we were not using it. That happened prior to whatever the next meeting was that we had that was within the 90 days. So the contract is being run by our town administrator, who is the person who runs the business part of the town and the day-to-day operations. He did work with all the department heads to get to the budget that you guys had last Wednesday, and you chose to look at the peach budget rather than the one that you were provided by the select, which could explain why you were not aware of the changes that had already been made by the police chief. I don't even know where to go or what to say because the narrative is not being driven by the select board.
so, Mr. Chairman, through you.
Yes.
through
That's-
the select
thank-
board,
The
that
select board?
to the select board, through the chair, to the select board. For clarity, I did not say anything that Nelson did not accommodate with the hours. That was in there. What I'm pointing out is that there was a contract that was signed before town meeting approved the budget line item in a contract that has a 90-day limit, which I believe the policy says can't have an automatic renewal unless it's an at-will termination.
Yeah.
So for clarity, if it's not been approved, which is my question, not about the hours, that is all true, Veronica, that they had not been, that's evidenced by the BVA, that they're not using all the hours. I didn't question that. My question was, if the town meeting has not approved the budget, can a contract be signed because it's being encumbered before town meeting votes on it? That's my question.
Right, and I think with the timing of the budget and preparing the budget along those lines and having a contract valid from the start, if we're approving a budget in May and the contract had to be renewed 90 days prior, it's kind of like you're within the window.
Except for, I believe, I could be mistaken, that there's a policy says that you cannot have a reoccurring contract unless it has that out. So
Right. So that would be the case. If the contract isn't to the policy, then
well,
we have a policy.
and that's a sub question for
Mhm.
clarity, but the true clarity is, can a contract be signed if money has not been appropriated at town meeting? That is my
Mhm.
singular question. With
Yeah.
instruction to sign a contract, if it's signed, it was signed before town meeting has appropriated money. What happens with that?
Okay.
Is there a way to ask Adam that? Because if it's not a valid contract,
Yeah.
you can have the opportunity, just like you're asking all your department heads to pay back. Why not ask the vendor to pay back?
Yep. We can ask, I would say, based on the day it is. We don't have the ability to ask Adam that question today and get a response, but we can. We have them on retainer, but this is town meeting day for a lot of towns. And I would expect that there's a lot of preparation going on for all of those town meetings.
Yeah, we know, we're not.
Well,
That's a question
we
we
can-
can discuss on the floor.
so
There won't be a lawyer there.
Oh, no,
There will be,
yes.
yeah.
But not Adam.
Oh, it'll be like that lady. Yeah, but
Different-
she's qualified. to
different
answer
woman,
that.
yeah,
She's
different
sitting out
lawyer.
there. Mhm. But they're not gonna send somebody. Well, no, what do they call us? Yeah.
Oh, the paralegal.
Yeah.
right, yeah, no, we have a different lawyer attending tonight than the last meeting.
The municipal lawyers, you know. And she. But, yeah. I think we're in a little bit of a spot here. You know, and I'm gonna address this to everybody. Since I've been on this board, what I've noticed is that when people ask questions or have like a dissent, an other view, it's not viewed, it's automatically disloyalty or retaliation or something negative. We need the exchange to work together. You can't just say, this is what you're gonna do. I mean, so far, so good. We're not a dictatorship, but I think in a municipal situation, we're a small town, we should all be working together to keep the taxes as low as we can, to keep the services as good as we can. I have a very, very distinct feeling that there are factions that are not allowing that to happen. And when anyone asks a question, you're automatically a disloyal person, automatically against the thing. It's not like you're trying to gain information to get the right answer. It's like, you're not doing what we want, so you're out. And I think that has to change somehow. I don't know how that changes, but it's apparent that it's rampant in this part of town. Just want to say that. I don't know where we go from here. I mean, I thought we had an alternative budget that would help the town. I think the salary situation is a problem that we would cut out.
Right.
Salary.
It-
But without doing it across the board. I'm not saying.
It there's different pieces on it. We don't know what it is. We don't know, and the townspeople don't know what would the cuts of personnel be? Would we diminish an office beyond being able to complete all their work? It's kind of like, we don't know, we don't have those answers from the budget.
Made of what
We-
is the
we
most
don't.
important and what is the least important.
Right.
Who do we
It's-
want to not want? That,
That's, those are the pieces. It's kind of like, and when I look at the budget and the way we placed it together, we created the whole budget top to bottom and said, and came up with what the override line was. And I think it was not clear that it was to support the overall budget. I think people were looking for what department is causing this override. And so there was no way to take and attach that 625 to an individual department. It would say, if 625 is there, we cut out senior center and library, and that's 625,000 out of the library, out of the budget. We were producing it that it's a cut for supporting the overall budget for everyone. And therefore, it's like every line, whatever the percent is, whether 1%, 0.5% of every line in the budget contributed to that total
right, it's
override
not a
number.
blame game.
It's not a blame game, but and that's the piece. It's kind of like, so I think that, they may have been a piece of it, but we do both budgets are being prepared, and we're trying to get an FY26 budget done. I think in both cases, when we get to next year, FY27, neither budget is sustainable. Kind of like,
Oh, no kidding.
so
Yeah,
it's
and the
kind of
ARPA
like,
funds are gone, so that, off the table.
right, and we're using them in our budget, and the select board is using it in their budget, and we need sustainability in the budget, and it has to sort of come to a head this year, that we don't have the money with just the 2.5% levy to support a budget, so we have to get to that.
Next year, he'll be worth.
Next year will be,
Well, of course it will.
I mean,
You saw
we're
this is downward trend.
Right.
John, not only is it about the money, but it's also about the community working together. I think that Kim brought up an excellent point this morning. She said, not to be old fashioned, back in the day, community people pitched in to paint
Mhm.
a
Right.
wall. Community people pitched in to mow a lawn. I think the community is completely separated from the administrative part of this. There is no welcoming, there is no interaction, the selectmen should be not up on the stage like the king and queen. They should be at the door when the people walk in and say, thank you for coming. How are you doing? Thank you for your vote. Thank you. Interacting, making the community whole and making it want. What happened to that?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, it's Dawn Priest. How are
Yeah.
you? Can I just add one thing as I'm about to run into an appointment?
Okay,
I want to share some perspective that it seems that, the starting point for the select board version and the starting point for the FinCom version are the same. We're just looking at two different options and how to address no override. And it sounds, from speaking to several of the department heads personally, that the FinCom budget is supported, whereas we just had a department head walk out because they saw the select board proposed budget, and they're very upset about the select board proposed budget. So I don't understand how they had input in that if they're that upset about it, but we did just have a department head walk out. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's gonna, no, that's not already. No.
No.
Okay. So let's,
Oh.
so, right, so.
Oh.
Kind of, so if we,
You just like roll the dice, press the rope and go to the meeting, dress up, Good enough.
I
Mr.
guess.
Chairman, is there any precedent for going with a one?
With the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen that, or recommendation from the Finance Committee that we don't vote a budget and we have another town meeting when a budget can be prepared.
Well, yeah,
And
I
what-
think it's gonna
yeah.
be really hard. I think it would require a department head meeting with the FinCom.
Mhm.
to go
Right.
through it.
I agree.
And,
Yeah.
and
Individual department head or all together?
All together?
I,
All together,
All
yeah.
together.
Yeah,
don't
don't
get
go together,
people
get it over
against each
done.
other.
with.
Yeah.
get it started, introduce the budget.
Because
But-
it ultimately is the FinCom's responsibility to say whether they support a line item or not.
Right.
And I feel like you guys have put a lot of time into
This-
this budget to get to this juncture and not know. Like right now, I don't know what you're supporting or not supporting.
Right.
And you all know me well enough that I will support people when they're right.
Yeah.
Veronica and I have worked on things together. Tanya and I have worked on things
Hmm.
together. We might have differing opinions from time to time, but the bottom
Right.
line is to get the best possible budget, and I'll go to the nines to support things that make sense. But if you're going down a different path, I don't know how to support that, and I think it would be mayhem tonight, and I don't know. I don't know what you do in that case.
Right. And
Please, please something.
people do that. It's kind of as department head.
I mean-
Jerry, you had a,
Or you just
Okay.
continue and you put forward
I do.
your FinCom budget,
Mhm.
and then, like,
and then,
like the chief said, his impact wouldn't be until,
it's, I think it's,
Chief, you
yeah.
said this, what month you
No,
were
no,
impacted?
yeah, what time, no, I'm not talking about time of day, I'm talking about what time frame do we have?
Well, hang on, chief, your impact, because yours is one of the bigger cuts. Your impact would be on what month of the year?
I would
Approximately.
I have a delayed hire, and I would just not hire that full fiscal year and come back to the drawing board next fiscal. That would be the position. In order to absorb that, and I'm not even sure that would quite cover it, but it would take me almost.
But if cross our fingers that hiring grant comes out, sign me up to write that for you.
We're going.
But does it make sense? And Steve, you're a great budget person, so does it make sense to try to pass what you feel is okay from the FinCom? And then, like we normally do at special town meeting, do a supplemental if needed, so that departments
Yeah.
can start working on July 1. We always have
Mhm.
a later special
Right.
town meeting and to try to do some course corrections at that.
right, and that's the piece. It's kind of like, as we prepare a budget, the accountant needs all the lines approved at town meeting so that we have a line that we can take and enter into into the accounting system, so
So-
from,
Because it seemed like
And-
you were almost there, having
It-
worked
it-
the whole budget.
it was, and to me,
Yeah.
these were minor changes in integrating the work that was done by Board of Selectmen, Department Heads, Town
And
Administrator.
then, Chief, what is the last date for you to hire into the academy?
Oh, yeah, no, so
Or the
that's,
fall
it's,
academy.
it's kind of a complicated question. It would depend on when I was funded for that spot. It would be, and I have to make the point that it's a more macro
Okay,
question for me. I'm not so sure. I'm not the one to ask. I think you'd have to ask the TA and the selectmen, because again, I'm at their order as far as what personnel looks like. So I would have to work that out, coalesce with them to try and figure out how that works. For sure.
I have,
I was gonna say Veronica
go
was,
ahead.
okay.
If for some reason we recommend not to approve this budget tonight,
Mhm.
okay, and when is the deadline for approving the budget? When's the date? When's the drop dead date that we have to have an approved budget? Because June 30th is coming up awfully fast.
It is.
I just want to know what the drop dead
Right,
date is.
if we had to set a target, I'd probably set it to June 1st, because there is work that
Correct.
And as I give
But-
whoever that needs to populate, whatever they need to populate with the budget and sufficient time to do that.
Mhm. I don't,
So the drop dead date is June
well,
1st.
that's
No,
arbitrary for me. We haven't, you know.
Okay, no,
confirmed.
we
We-
have to have we
Drop
need
dead
to
date.
know
Right.
A drop
what,
dead date.
a drop dead date, that this is the date that we cannot go beyond this date.
Right.
To have a valid plus budget, because people have to have time to populate whatever it is they populate with the budget. Whatever they need to do, so we need to have a drop dead date, and it can't be arbitrary, and that's what we have, and we have to have a town meeting prior to that
To
drop
approve
dead
it.
date. To approve it, so if June 1st is the date, then that's what we have to work for. Of getting some
Yeah.
kind of budget up there and approved.
The question, you're talking about spending here.
Mhm.
Well, but if there's no idea what you keep saying, the bottom line, talk about balanced budget, balancing
Mhm.
against what?
It's balanced on that recap sheet that
I
was
don't
included
have
with
the
this.
recap.
Okay,
The last thing I have is the pinky copy that was handed out 2 or 3 weeks ago.
right. And that's the thing. It's kind of like from the finance committee budget, we haven't prepared the associated recap sheet.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like, so that's a piece that's on us. If we're presenting it, that's the second half of the picture, is to present the recap sheet.
So Don, again.
Yeah.
It seems like Chief Sartell, who has the biggest impact here.
Mhm.
Reallocation of this cruiser is there.
Right.
Fundamentally, that he graciously delayed last year. Sounds like cut is a delay in hiring, not ideal, but not cutting any person now.
Yeah.
If you pass what your FinCom recommended budget is tonight, and as customary, if there's adjustments needed at a later year special town meeting to accommodate this potentially. I'm just worried,
It's-
I mean, I don't know how to.
Right.
I'm sitting
I've-
here about
Yeah.
not going forward with the budget.
With the budget, but if we have, we're not talking about we're talking about assigning an amount to every line in the budget. If we have amounts in the budget that we came up with are numbers to cut by department.
Right.
But they're on a line, and indicated on a line that may not be where the department
they're
head
not.
puts it.
Your
So
budget,
by,
I'm looking at, has it's got cut to the budget, then you would work with the department heads to get those line items, because they do have to be filled in. Just like the blank lines, Don. The selectmen have blank lines with positions commingled.
Yeah.
The town is never gonna go through that way. I mean, I can't
Right.
ever say anything. I'm
Right.
coming to you, my pulse check in my
Mhm.
mind, of what the town would accept. One that rolls things together and has blank lines for people's
It's
salaries.
amount, yep,
That's not gonna happen.
Right.
But a budget that has funding in there for, as we traditionally do, the clerk
Yeah.
is always voted on,
Mhm.
that gets done.
Yeah.
And if they have their high level line item budgets.
Yeah.
Not the 9 categories. I think it's 9, but your longer sheet.
Yeah.
For column A, which gives department heads a high level budget that then they would back into, you could still work with them. My fear is if you wait till June, past the budget, you're not gonna get that far, and you're
Yeah.
into a different season.
Right.
You were like inches away from FinCom agreeing on a budget. And if it's livable to the largest department head here, knowing that there'll be opportunity to perhaps make changes later, you're probably gonna have most success with trying to get the budget that you were working on.
That's a good perspective. The other thing is, we have until like 7:15 tonight to be sure if we're going to do this. We have to decide if we're going to do this. And then we have to be ready to defend it in some fashion, because I'm sure the select board is going to make sure that they're defending their budget. And is that going to be an all-night fight? I mean, and we have to be united if we're going to do this.
Well, and,
We can't do that, no curveballs, that no
and Mr. Chairman, the select board said that they wanted compromise. It seems to you, and Nelson asked me if we could have a compromise budget.
Mhm.
So maybe their compromise is to accept the FinCom budget tonight so that everybody can move forward and we can work things out.
Right.
So something is going to get, if you go tonight,
It's,
one of the
right.
two budgets will get accepted. My guess will be FinCom.
Dawn?
Yeah,
I
yes.
just want to comment, I have two comments actually. One is on the impact of cutting personnel in public safety. Those contracts are written such that if an officer isn't hired or on-call firefighters are not funded or cut, what happens is that full-time people wind up having to cover those shifts. We are 24/7 and there are contracts, union contracts in place.
I don't mean to be rude, I just have a comment.
Yeah, I
Right,
know,
so,
Mr. Chair,
take it.
no problem.
Thank you.
And those get covered at time and a half or double time, depending on the circumstance.
Right.
In fiscal year 21, there was $274,453 in unbudgeted overtime. In fiscal year 22, it was $197,547 in unbudgeted overtime. If you look at the BVAs, you'll see that. I don't have the BVAs for 23 and 24 because I was not on the select board at that time.
Yep.
The chiefs have worked very hard over the past several years to make it so that the budgets they anticipate and put in are the true budget based on their staffing. The Board of Selectmen worked with the contracts in order to increase pay for those on call and et cetera. So we would have a fully staffed fire department. This year in the fire department, we are over, but that has more to do with the closing of Neshoba and other towns using us for mutual aid pretty heavily. So this year is a little different. The person that the department heads report to the TA, and I have full confidence that our TA has worked with them. I also want to say that the budget policy states that the select board, after we do the budget process that we did do, the select board provides the budget to the finance committee, who then reviews that budget and makes recommendations as such. It is clear to me, because I've been at the meetings over the past week, that that did not happen. Instead of reviewing the budget that you were given after our vote a week ago, you went to a completely different budget. So I don't know why.
Right, well,
And the thing that you mentioned this morning, Dawn, wouldn't have happened had you looked through our budget, because Nelson was anticipating that the override vote would fail, especially given the push for it to fail. So it was pretty obvious that that was going to happen. It would have been remiss of our town administrator not to be working with the department heads. Getting back to my first point, personnel cuts in some departments have a greater impact on the services provided to the town than personnel cuts in other departments. Personnel cuts in the library will result in us not having a certified library, which has way different implications to the what the townspeople see. So the budget that the select board put forward, yes, there are some reductions in hours. There are open positions that are not being hired. But beyond that, there was a large effort to make it have the least impact possible on both the staff, and yes, some staff is impacted, and what the people see and what services are delivered to the townspeople. The final budget has a 0.5% increase over FY 2025. We are not even using the full 2.5%. So I will just say that.
with the cuts. And
I have nothing more
Right.
to
No,
really say
and-
on.
And we go back to the process and handing it over. It states that it's, the finance committee will have that and a 5-year plan in March. And so,
Right. there
and
was
make
free
recommendations, so
software That came into play
that's,
years ago
I-
that got dropped for whatever reason, not me, but it did. Because the
But-
budget process should be the town's budget process. There should be budgeting software that is for the entire town, that everyone works off of.
right. And
And that was the goal.
Well, we weren't
But-
getting part of that. That's not.
no,
our
it's
issue.
kind of, that's,
Well,
that's
Don
a
was, he
piece
was
of it.
on the FinCom. You might know
We-
him, Dan. Sam was on the FinCom. Geraldine was on. the
Right.
FinCom.
There was an attempt to bring software in that would do it, which would, it would have, it's basically just a front end to a database on the back end with the budgets. It's kind of,
It's the same software that Tucker uses.
but that being said, it's in the procedure and we probably should have been looking, starting at March 1st, as the policy says, and working at that point. And we got a late start on it, continuing to work, so.
I
Yep.
agree. I think there's been such mismanagement for so long that something's gotta come to
Right.
a stop.
Yep.
And of course, we're not gonna talk to fire because we're not. And
Right.
I'm very happy that Chief Sartell has seen
Mhm.
this predicament we're in, and it's
Right.
at least not told us that we're out of our minds. So I would like to make a motion that we do present in the legal fashion the FinCom budget and let the
Mhm.
people decide. I mean, the people
Yeah.
still have a voice, don't they?
They do.
I mean-
The people can vote on the budget and,
So we'll have our situations and Blackman will have ours and let the people decide.
then we'll continue. So we had a motion to
Okay.
submit
FinCom
the budget to, FinCom budget as we currently have it and continue to keep work and present at tonight's town meeting.
Will it be available at the town meeting?
We'll have to make it there. Yes, we'll Walk over
I just
to
had
the-
my budget here is
walk over to
a
the
couple
copiers.
weeks old from
Yeah.
the very
Right.
first time we had the pinkies
Yep.
come out.
Yep.
Or whatever few people were
Mm.
gonna call it.
Okay, so if we present the budget, the
Mm-hmm.
FinCom budget, and it gets approved, and some of the numbers are not accurate, what does that do? Like some of the department head cuts that they haven't looked at,
We have to send it to them.
but we may not get an answer before the meeting.
Right. It-
So I
And
just
and at
want-
this,
I
at
Oh, I'm
At this
sure
point-
they'll look at
Yeah, at this point, we have to submit what we have. I think time-wise, we're too late to do anything else before tonight's
Okay, so-
meeting and
so I-
the
continue.
legality of the movie.
Well, I just
Mm.
want to know, I just want to understand the legality of submitting a alternate budget. That may or may not have all the department head
But,
cuts,
yeah.
approvals, whatever.
Uh,
That's my only thing, is the legality of doing it.
I agree 1,001%. So we have to, someone, this will have to be me, I'll go to the department heads right now. Rob's gonna be a wild card, he's off.
He's on vacation, out of touch.
Okay,
Yep, Sam?
we need to, as a town, go in and have a balanced budget.
Correct.
Whether or not a department head is happy with it is almost slightly immaterial, with the exception that, as I understand it, we can have throughout the year the possibility of authorizing a transfer from Department A to Department B.
That is, if you're gonna make a change like that, you have to have a special town meeting in the last.
Okay, so it has to go, once you get changed departments,
When you get to the end of a year, you do have the municipal transfer request, but, if it
but,
was not set properly in the beginning, you can reset as we did, 2 years ago, I believe it was, that we reallocated monies in town meetings to different lines.
yeah, 'cause, I mean, the bottom line is we only have so much to spend, period.
Exactly. And
And
we're
so
doing the best.
therefore, we've got to do the best we can to give the best services possible.
Mhm.
With the exception of snow and ice, which can start plowing at
Right.
10 kilometers.
Yep, snow and ice is the only deficit budget line we have. Okay.
Right?
Do we-
You do know we worked hell of a hard to get the numbers you've got at the bottom line, wherever they
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. Just
And,
gonna- Everybody in the room, we're all,
we have to present what we've got.
presented.
So John, do you want to do an email from you and send it to all the heads?
I can do that. Yeah.
You have all the addresses for all the department heads?
I believe so. If not, I'll get them.
I think we should do that first. Ask for their feedback by 2 o'clock this afternoon. 3. Well, by end of their
Mhm.
business day, right?
By-
Is it 4
yeah.
o'clock?
Yeah, it's,
Mr. Chairman, just for awareness, should they not agree, what do you do then? Just duly noted?
and I believe all department heads should be present at tonight's meeting. And if they're residents, they can be in the voting areas if they're, usually there's a section for department heads. And especially those not living in town or in visitor section at town meeting. And so if they have an objection, they can, or in support of something, they can stand up and speak to it if there's questions.
But we need to know where they stand.
We would
If all
like
of
to
them
know,
say
yeah,
no, then
right,
why bother?
it's gonna,
So do we know? So, okay. How does this work? Rob Barrett opens the meeting. He introduces the selectmen, they pledge the flag, and then what?
then the first article in both the annual town meeting and the special town meeting asks for reports from
So we go
committees,
through
so
those
we
items.
go
And
through
then
the
we get
items.
11, which is the budget.
Yeah.
Or do we ask to take this out of order and just figure it out before all that? I mean,
If the town meeting warrant was put together in that segment to get the other town business out of the way before doing the budget. So it's kind of, so
we should
I
do it
think
in
let 'em
order.
do it in order. And if we get to that point, when we get to the point of the budget and the other financial lines. Yeah.
And is it a motion?
I had heard a motion to have this printed and available so that we can make sure that if people are asked to look at something, they have it available. So that's the motion. Do we have a second? Any additional discussion or questions?
Mr. Chairman, just real
Yeah.
quick,
Yeah.
I'm to understand how this would work for me in particular, whereas the proposed cuts that were made on the beach budget that I saw,
Mhm.
which is aged, I saw it quite a while ago, were on the expenses side, and I'm recommending that they be on the personnel side. Would that be reflected in the one that you're asking for town department heads to review? I'd have to unpack
yeah.
that.
Right, yeah.
But as long as it's on the personnel side, it becomes easier to unpack for me.
Yeah, so our cuts are just saying, this is the number
To the functional segments.
to the functional segment for the budget line, and then let you unpack it. We don't, because of the separation of the work being done, we don't have your labor cuts that were put in. So that to me would be your first to put it back in. Or they can be in the notes section. It will be identified.
But to be clear, I mean, you don't need that level of detail from the department head.
No, right now it's, can you commit to this amount? Can you look at it and agree to the amount for the budget? So, yeah, that's the initial ask is exactly that. Can you find in your budget this amount to reduce it?
In any line, not.
Yeah.
I think we have to be abundantly clear with the department heads if that's the.
Mhm.
Yeah, just to give you an idea,
Right.
if I were to cut the personnel, it comes out of a multitude of lines, so I would have to kind of unpack it properly. So in order to, when the budget starts, I would be starting in the right position, not having to balance 5 checkbooks.
Right.
Yeah, so there would, the balance of the cuts would be in the personnel side, not in the expenses side, but they still would require an unpacking experience.
Yeah.
All right, so how do we want to logistically move this forward? You're
Okay,
gonna send out the email.
I'll send out the email. Yeah,
Do you want me to make copies available?
well, yeah.
And are we going to have any other comments on any of the other articles that FinCom would recommend, or is that just gonna be? Are we gonna do it?
I think we'll have to do it verbal because at this point to do that work and get it and get it printed, I think it's too much work. So I think it's verbal
Okay,
on each of the articles as they come up. We'll speak to our recommendation.
okay. And when are you gonna send that email out to me?
Soon as I can after we're done here and adjourn.
Plan.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have any handouts?
No, I thought you said you want to have it printed. Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
the budget.
right. Yeah.
So, would it make sense for you and another of the mayor members to sort of, when you have a motion to sign something on a session, to have 2 members sit and make sure that your numbers are 100% reconciled
Mhm.
for your handout,
Yes, make sure.
to go through that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you make that motion, but like I said, I'm
Mhm.
with that.
We'll make a motion. Make motion to have 2 members of FinCom.
Yep.
Confirm the figures are correct.
Yeah.
Before.
Be-
sending
before
out
printing.
to the- Oh, before
For
printing.
printing. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we
Well,
get
and
feedback from the department heads.
right. It's gonna I mean,
Or we're just gonna say,
it,
we accept it or we don't, we're okay with it or we're not.
Yeah.
So you'll have to tell us what the department heads say.
yeah.
Now, I'll make the motion. We have 2 members. I'll second.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
we never voted on the, first motion, you know what?
Yeah, right.
So let's vote on Can we vote on the first?
The first one is to send to department heads.
Oh, recommend, no,
Recommend
I-
go with FinCom budget.
recommend. Motion to recommend the budget be presented at town meeting currently.
Okay, thank you. And we had a second on
Yes.
that. Okay, so the motion before us is to have the finance committee budget available at town meeting and passed for review by the townspeople. In the affirmative, we will have it there. And roll call vote, and we are down.
Carol Hawkins, yeah.
Mary Jane Chuck.
Yeah, Grant, yeah.
Don Hayes, yes.
So what does that mean exactly?
It means we'll take, as it's been called, the Peach budget and have it available for review as an alternative.
So we'll make a motion on the floor to have it entered.
If it's going to be there and for people to see it, then they have to be copies of it available at the back of town meeting. So we have that.
So how many
Action.
hundred copies you gonna make?
It will match whatever it
800.
will match whatever the other budget printing was. So we'll have the same numbers.
Oh, do
So
you know?
not off the top of my head, I think it's around 200.
So
Around 200.
Whoever formats this.
Yeah.
This is not terribly readable. If you tell me what the number is, I can say, okay, I see that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't tell me what it is, I'm trying to pick it out even with my glasses on.
Okay.
There are like 24 columns that you've thrown out. There's whatever the
Mm-hmm.
difference is, well, that can be thrown out and just have a beach line in here. Income proposal.
Yeah.
Right next to the other one, if you wish.
Okay.
And that would
It's kind of like the less the better. We can spread it out, make it larger, fill the
be
page,
very helpful.
fill the page on printing.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, in the
Yes.
omnibus
Yep.
format that you're putting it out, what you're gonna have for each of the lines where you are not proposing cuts, you're proposing an overall cut to the bottom line of that budget, both
Mhm.
personnel and expenses, but not getting as granular as each of the lines. So what I would be looking at is you would be saying to me, here's the personnel figure that we are proposing, here's the
Okay.
expenses
Yeah.
figure that is what
Okay.
I'm to understand. If you presented me the Peach budget, that would be
Yeah.
that would be a different animal.
Yeah.
That was granular to a point where it was unworkable for
Right.
me.
I think it's two. One is the picture of, this is the top line item. So you have it says police and has a figure, a dollar figure. And then you have the detail line, like you're talking about on the omnibus. So it'll be two worksheets, one with the high level, this is the number, and then the detail sheet with how to apply it.
The detail sheet will not contain the cuts. Is what confuses me.
We'll take it out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah, it would have to, then you'll apply it. You can. Yeah, okay, so I get it. So it's kind of like that, so it's not confusing as to how it's presented. Okay, and there was another motion on the floor?
Motion is for two members of the FinCom. Confirm the numbers are correct prior to printing.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so I could do, I mean, I live right here, so I could do that. But,
you don't have a computer.
oh yeah, I don't have a computer.
Right.
Yeah, I have no, and I can't do it on my phone because I can't
That's
hold my
true,
phone.
yeah.
So no, I don't have a computer.
Well, I guess I could do it. What time do you want to do it?
What time do you have available? I know you've got,
Oh, I think go work until 2:30,
Mhm.
from 2:30 to 3:30. 3:30 would be my most available time.
we probably need to do it before.
Can you work with Kim? Could Kim work with you?
I can help you guys right now.
Yeah. Carol, if you've got time now, we can find a room. We can
I can't.
share the computer.
I can sit in the left.
Yeah.
Can I use the restroom before we?
Yeah.
Mary Jo,
Before we-
use the-
yeah. Yep. That's-
Yeah.
Yeah. When, you guys both need it. Is it Carol saying, ready?
Mhm.
Now you have memory.
Two?
Well, we could,
We can do 3. Exactly.
but it's minimum two.
It-
One.
We got a
Hmm.
meeting. You can't-
We don't have
you can't-
a quorum is 4.
Yeah, you don't, you could have.
A working
another
session.
number, but you don't have.
But we don't have a quorum at 3.
Another member. The most valuable.
So we'll make it a working session to do it and get it,
Yeah.
because of the timing, get it presented and ready for town meeting. Okay, and ready. Let's put the next motion.
We have another motion?
No, I thought we had
Oh, but we
the
haven't
working.
voted.
We haven't voted on the
Yeah.
working, so.
We voted.
So we're setting up a working group to prepare and make sure numbers are accurate and information is available for town meeting. And did we have a second?
Yeah. that's it.
Okay, thank you. And
Oh, is this a new motion to establish a working group or is it still?
I think that that's just putting maybe modifying the motion for the working.
So we just want to reword the motion to.
Yeah,
Two members of the establish a working group of 2 members of
Yeah.
FinCom
Sorry, yeah,
to confirm the numbers are correct prior to printing. Okay,
sorry. It's kind of like, I guess I added words to
yeah, that's
to the
okay.
motion, but that
Okay, that's
little
fine.
clarity.
That's fine. It's okay.
We still have agreement that the second on that is good.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions, comments? roll call vote on affirmative. We're gonna work and get information available, ready for town meeting.
Carol Hawes, yes.
Mary Jane Sheffield, yes.
Grant, yeah.
Don Hayes, yes. Yeah.
Maybe people not notes here, I don't know. I know you talked about you all being okay with the recommendation for stabilization, but did you end up voting on that?
We had not voted on it because I don't know. Did we have a number in the file?
It was trash, yeah. It was two something, I think.
Right. Oh, wrong file. The recap draft, okay.
Yeah, so I think we were, when it was at the 125.
Yeah.
The amount for the pilot was 157,080,000. Number, so we would be doing the round number, but I
Mhm.
question
Well,
a little buffer
can-
or something.
yeah, it's not bad to have, especially on a budget. If we haven't done the rounding factors yet, to round everything up and all those pieces. And so you said 152.
It was 157,980.
Yeah.
But then I had put 160 question mark.
Okay.
buffer.
Okay, so at this point, I did put the 160 on the stabilization number. We'll take a look at it, because if I look down on there, it's still showing that it's a $200,000. Under the levy, yeah. So it's gonna
Is this for trash?
no, this is not for trash. This I think I didn't think we had trash in here, but you're right.
It was for
It,
the pilot program.
Oh, okay. You gonna pay us this bill for it?
You know, the one with the user fee, pay as you throw, moving it to the revolving account.
Okay. So that has to, I think that if it's not part of the budget, it's not on the warrant articles. I don't know that it's going to come up tonight.
Trash?
I was, no,
Oh,
that
the
new,
pilot.
that whatever that is, but that's
They're
not
doing a
part,
presentation, pilot told us.
Right, they're doing a presentation,
but
but
it's not in the budget right now,
Oh,
right, it's not in the budget right now. So it'd have to be, do we have it in?
And is this something that would be voted on the meeting?
As part of the budget at that point.
If they're just doing a presentation of what it is it gonna go up for vote whether you wanna do that pilot program or just get rid of trash, period? And everybody go do whatever they wanna do.
I think that if the presentation is a piece, I don't know that there's anything on the warrant other than including it in the budget that has to
I didn't see anything in the warrant articles
Yeah.
regarding trash.
right.
Oh. So we can't put it in the budget right now.
I don't think so. No.
In your budget or your original.
It was in the original budget, but right now what we're seeing in here um, is a piece. We'd have to increase the line under solid waste and put it in there, and then also have the stabilization piece, but stabilization. We'd have to be prepared to modify the funding source to include that money from stabilization.
Right, which I know you had talked about a couple of meetings ago, you just vote on the final.
Right, we didn't
The final
didn't
number.
vote on a final number, but it's, like I say, it's not in the budget right now, so it's kind of, and again, you're talking about putting it out, doing that piece outside. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but
If you use the stabilization funds, don't you have to back, do that as a warrant article?
we have to have,
So,
or it's got to be modified in an existing warrant article.
Okay.
Change the motion, yeah, on the floor, to fund it. And so it would have to be part of the funding sources for that piece. And so where they define where additional monies are coming from, we'd have to modify that section of the warrant. Okay. Okay, I think
Yeah, so,
so.
Mary Jane, did you end up joining
Did I do what?
the Board of Health meeting on Friday? I know Geraldine was on it, I was on it, a bunch of other people on it.
I don't remember.
They were proposing the fee, the pilot program structure.
I was
So
there. I don't
sticker,
remember.
is the fee monthly or yearly?
yeah,
Yes, I was there.
with union pay.
Okay.
What did you need?
It's the system that the town uses for billing,
Mm.
the recreation uses it. People pay their taxes online, they use it.
They're like that.
Okay, so
I checked both pieces.
if we're gonna do this, do we want to have a motion to allocate the $160,000 from stabilization funds to to support the new trash. It
That's what it,
trash program, yeah.
program.
Whatever they call it. But that's,
Mm.
we're talking about that empty line from the town bylaws that says that they're supposed to have some sort of solid waste department, which was never set up. The only one that was set up is just for the landfill, so this is an additional account.
Mhm.
No, I think it's
Right.
set up. Isn't the solid waste already in existence?
No, so solid waste was defined in bylaws, but only the recycling was set, recycling.
One was
It's a solid
Yeah,
waste line
second
item
one.
that I see.
Oh, solid waste, yes. It's kind of like, I'm sorry,
That was used.
Right.
It was used.
so is,
So
Close
that's
down.
recycling.
is solid waste curbside pickup and transportation. Kind of, and that's the piece. It's kind of,
It's keep curbside with the purple bags and the 150 sticker.
okay, yeah, so that's,
Wasn't it 150, we moved it to
115 is
It
what I
was
heard.
125, we moved to 150. And you have to, and then you buy your stickers. I
150, you're saying now?
I
I think
think
it's 125.
it was
Okay,
125.
that's,
I think they want to move to.
with that, if it goes into the budget, I'd say it's the solid waste curbside and in transportation where it would be added.
And then
And
on the solid waste line,
Yep.
that is there now, are you including everything? You pick up the tipping fees for the town side?
right now, it's not. The only thing in here is the pickup of the dumpsters at each of the town facilities. And like, so that's the piece. It's kind of like if
It would need to be something on the town side.
um,
Mr. Chair, the Board of Health is recommending a different contract from what the Select Board was recommending for trash. So there would need to be some allocation in the municipal budget for their portion of tonnage.
okay, so that's okay. That would be a change. I don't have that contract and we don't know how it impacts the budget. So we're gonna. I'm just going to add an additional line. Does it make sense to add an additional line or without an account right now?
I think in solid waste, you had 1960 and select board had 19,700. So this is close as a number close.
I'm seeing. Oh, okay, sorry. No. And you're talking the solid waste total line. No. Okay, sorry. I am just this sticking in my mind's not coming around this one. And because if we have the solid waste at the 9960, then that's um, if we're setting up the new program, it's kind of like we're having the presentation. It would have to be in here as it'd be on the recap sheet as a program to be looked at and see if it's added during the budget. Like no other way to hit that at this point. It's not in the budget. We don't have a line for it. It's not something we do today. So carrying it forward, it sort of has to be on the recap. I think on the recap side. Okay. I think I'm good with that. So
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, the solid waste fund is set up and in existence. It just needs to be made active, which we could do by a motion to amend the revolving account list to add it and give it a spending limit of $800,000 for this contract.
yeah. No, I have, yeah, I appreciate that, Don. It kind of, I was just trying to figure out where the funding is coming from. And so where it needs to be is in the recap, because if it's a revolving fund, it's not going to be in the omnibus budget. That's why I was trying to get my head straight around where it needs to show in the budget so that we can show balanced numbers.
Right. I think it wouldn't be in the omnibus except for the municipal portion, which is going to be paid out of the general fund. So
Yep.
that number needs to go up slightly.
Yep. Got it. Okay. So I guess with this, in order to support the new the new curbside trash program, being promoted by, Board of Health, it would require money from the stabilization fund, which would go into, the fund, the fund for the startup costs for the new program. So by putting it and listing it in the recap sheet, we have it here and can note it if something doesn't happen where we accept a new trash program at town meeting. The stabilization money would not be needed and would need to be included in the motion that includes setting up the new program. But we will have it here, and we would need a motion to authorize stabilization funds to be used to assist with the startup of the new trash pickup program.
I make that motion to authorize the state, fund from stabilization to, fund the startup trash pickup
Okay, and the amount is 160,000.
in the amount of one.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None being heard, a roll call vote.
Carol Houses, yes.
Mary Jane Churchville, yes.
And that, yeah.
Don Hayes, yes. Okay, I think that is the last item we have to put together on the budget. We'll go up a little bit. They had on funding. Okay. Any further questions or discussion on the budget?
Mr. Chair, the Board of Health is recommending, or I should say Carla from the Board of Health had
Mhm.
suggested $10,000 as the tonnage to increase that budget line by for the municipal tonnage.
Okay, thank you. So that will be stated. Okay, then that being said, we've gone through the budget. We have our actions to take leaving here and get ready and prepare for this evening's town meeting. Any last items?
No,
And B,
but if we're gonna make, are we
Yep.
gonna work together? Is that really important?
No,
We-
as soon as I leave the farm break.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Just for point of clarification, I know sometimes when we've been on other committees, when there's a subcommittee, if there's like a small error or slight
Mhm.
correction, it doesn't deviate from the intent, you have to make that. You have to make that in a motion, and I just understood on it.
I think it's understood but if we want to have it, to amend the motion for the working group to include, small changes, maintaining the intent, that the finance committee had for putting together and submitting the budget, would be allowed by the working team on behalf of the whole. So I need a motion or,
Stumble over one of those little bricks.
yeah, it's possible. It's kind of like typos, fat finger, kind of like,
So you want to amend the motion of the working group to minor corrections?
right.
With
Keeping the intent.
Keeping the intent with the keyword.
The budget?
For the. Okay,
So you want me to make, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Over all of them.
okay, roll call.
Sam
vote.
Grant,
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Mary Jane Churchman, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
Don Hayes, yes. And with that, and one last time, anything else for the team? Nothing. Nothing being heard. I entertain the motion to adjourn at 10:30 p.m.
I'm looking to adjourn. 10:30.
I'll second it.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Mary Jane Churchman, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
Don Hayes, yes. We stand adjourned. And thank TCAM for setting this up, and thanks our police station for hosting us this morning.